Welcome to Section 3 of Building Your Own REST API with Python and Django. In Section 3, we'll actually build RESTful APIs. In this section, we'll consider what REST APIs are, we'll create APIs directly and then with the Django REST framework, we'll work with serialized models, we'll consider views and routing, and finally how to test our APIs. In this video 3.1, we'll explore what RESTful APIs actually are. We'll consider why we use APIs, what is REST, what resources are, HTTP methods and CRUD operations, and finally, what status codes are. Firstly, why do we use APIs? When the World Wide Web was first created, it was designed for people who used web browsers. They would make requests through their browser and the browser would respond by communicating with the server. The server would actually format a response for the browser to display the end result to the user, which would be displayed on a screen. In the modern web, we see that there's much computer-to-computer traffic, where one computer process can communicate with another computer process. There may be a final process that translates that for display to a user, but perhaps not. It could be going to a database or some other use. So presentation being tied in with data transmission is complicated and adds overhead. APIs facilitate more streamlined communication by focusing only on data. APIs are not concerned with presentation. What is REST? REST is not the teddy bear sleeping on the bed having a rest, but it is a representational state transfer built on HTTP, and it is an API. REST uses web technologies first built for human-to-server communications, the World Wide Web, to deliver an API capability. REST uses a number of terminologies, and we'll consider them now. And the first, resources. A REST resource is anything that can be addressed. It could be a video, it could be audio, it could be text, it could be pictures, it could be a whole range of different things. Anything that has an address that can be used to identify is a resource. And so REST uses URLs for this purpose. We've seen URLs before in Django for traditional web applications. REST uses similar concepts. Next, REST uses a series of HTTP methods. In traditional web publishing, we see that GET and POST are used. GET is used to retrieve existing resources, such as an existing web page, and POST is used to update existing pages. It can be used for a variety of different things, but traditional web publishing uses those two methods. But HTTP has other methods, and REST specifically makes use of the put and delete methods in addition to GET and POST. Once these methods and a resource have been identified, the server will respond by invoking an operation. An operation can do a variety of different things, but typically they're broken into four main categories: create, read, update, and delete. We call that CRUD for short. We find that these three concepts work together. In a REST API call, a resource will be identified, a method will be selected, and that will result in an operation. An example could be page 1, a GET request will translate to a read operation on that page 1 resource. If I used a POST request instead, that would result in an update operation, and the server will expect that the requester has supplied the information that the resource will be updated with. And then finally, once the operation is complete, the requesting device is listening for a response to find out what has actually happened. The server communicates this back to the listener using a status code. It may also have other data, like for instance a read operation will return the information that's being read. But there may not be other data, it may simply just have a status code by itself. If the operation was successful, the server will generally respond with a 200 OK response. If there's a problem, it'll use a different code based on what the actual problem is. We've got a few displayed on the screen, but there's a whole range of status codes that are used in REST. Typically more than what are used in traditional web publishing.